You might be wondering about your counterpart, your loved one, your desired partner. What would happen if I behaved differently towards them, assuming you are in contact? How would he react to that? Will he notice that I'm writing differently, that I'm pulling back, that something is different? Or maybe you have or had contact. You responded differently, maybe wrote differently, and now you're wondering, I pulled back, reacted, or wrote differently. Does he notice that? What is going on inside him, or what would be going on inside him? And now we're going to ask this question collectively. As you know, this is a collective reading. The character cards are gender neutral, and a collective reading can never be a perfect one-to-one fit for everyone. Even the details that are included, that are shown, that I mentioned, are collective energies. So please always adapt it to yourself and your situation. So for example, if I say at the bakery, that doesn't necessarily mean it's actually the bakery. It could be the butcher, it could be a supermarket, another supermarket, it could be a hardware store, it could be something else, it could be a park. So just somewhere outside. These are just examples. And I know you're all doing an absolutely wonderful job, and I thank you from the bottom of my heart that you exist. I thank my wonderfully lovely community also for the way you interact with each other, for your comments. Many, many, many heartfelt thanks for that. As I said, this is a collective reading. The person cards are gender neutral, and it may not apply to everyone. With collective readings, you take from it what resonates with you. For example, if I say, yes, he drove a car, and you say, no, he doesn't even have a driver's license. That can't be right. Then maybe it was the bus instead. Or just leave out the car entirely. So, as I said, it's a collective reading. I just have to approach it on a broader scale here. It's always different in a personal reading. There, I'm in your energy, in the energy of your counterpart, and no matter what situation or person it's about, I'm in that energy the whole time when we do a personal reading. Of course, right now I'm also completely in the collective energy here, but as I said, it's about the bigger picture. Okay? So you are wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. Thank you, thank you, thank you again for your warm and kind comments and for your appreciation. Thank you for your trust. You mean a lot to me. Your trust means the world to me. Thank you for that. So now I'd say, let's get started, right? Okay. So let's take a look and see whether he notices or would notice. And what's going on inside him when you react differently. Maybe withdraw, or perhaps write or speak to him differently, or present yourself to him in a different way. So as I said, maybe it already happened that you did this. Now you're asking the question, did he notice? Does he catch on? Or when you're in contact again, right? All right. No idea why I drew this one now, but I did. So let's just include it, okay? Yeah. Okay. So first of all, with him or her, there is definitely a lot going on. We have the Tower, and the Tower, of course, we're starting right away with the major arcana, right? So the Tower, there are conflicts, inner conflicts. What I already find really great here, internally, this is about change. Pure chaos within your loved one, inside themselves. Maybe it also has to do with their environment. That's also possible. There have been quite a few things here that have brought unpleasant surprises as well. As I said, we are completely in the midst of conflicts here. Everything imaginable seems to be crashing together here. But these are conflicts leading to change. We are on the path of transformation. Something is happening here. Something is going on here. Now let's take a look here. Wow. The Four of Wands. Fantastic. I really think that's great. Four of Wands. Good. That means, yes, in any case, we already have a yes here. He notices something. He senses that there is something and how he reacts to it. You know, we really dive deep here, but it's already off to a good start. And especially with the Four of Wands. It's the same again now. We have excitement here, right? Excitement, but also change, because he's somehow in this state of tension. But we're in a transition here. Something is still holding him back. Maybe he doesn't react at all or hasn't reacted. There's some kind of tension here, but movement is being shown again. And above all, what I also find fantastic here is that we are in a phase of rapid movement. So whether you have written to him or you will write to him differently or react differently or you will withdraw, maybe even stop responding to messages, and then he will notice it. And as for him noticing, we're already talking about days now. We are now in the day range, so things are moving quickly. It won't take forever for something to happen. But right now, we are still inside his inner world. As I said, we're going even deeper into all of this here. Namely, here, no, they were there, exactly like that. Now we've got it. Oh, now we have wands again. Okay, the Ace of Wands. Yeah, I find that so fantastic. Ace of Wands. There's something is occupying his mind and something here is aimless. So here it's about, we're now talking about communication or change towards you. That means the withdrawal or, as I said, I've given a few examples of what this is about. And there's something about looking back. So he's definitely realizing something here. It becomes uncertain that something here doesn't quite fit anymore. Looking back at maybe your previous messages from a few years ago, a few months ago, a few days ago, doesn't matter. Or how you expressed yourself to him, or how aggressive you may have been, So something is definitely happening here. And something is also on his mind here, and he wants to get things moving, maybe sees an opportunity, a good chance. There's something going on here. But we're still in the middle of the chaos here, right? So disorder, okay? But we already have a very, very positive starting signal here. And the Ace of Wands, he's uncertain, and we have again the area. For now, another yes, okay? He senses something is happening. And again, we have speed, days, okay? And then it's also the case that no matter what season it is, no matter which season, it's like a new spring. Something is going on here, like spring fever, Especially when it comes to love. Yeah, something is in motion here. Change, chaos. Maybe he or she was always in chaos, like that. And so now we also have the coins. I think coins are absolutely great here, especially when they're included. And if we now add the Knight of Coins, it's just crazy. We have 3 times yes. So I'm telling you for sure, we really have it here. He notices it. He gets it. We have movement. And the Ishi's stubbornness is also showing, So this stubbornness, I'd say he's really moving along quite slowly and sluggishly. This stubbornness maybe doesn't allow for any discussion, or maybe that he did reply to you in messages at some point. It was always like that the whole time. Because of this stubbornness, he just stuck to his own routine and really had no desire for change. But no desire for change is right here. There is a change, right? Because we have, again, this something is different here. There is something different that he can't quite grasp anymore. And he keeps coming back to this point. Love. Something is touching him as well. Love, the foundation between the two of you. All right, then let's just wait and see what happens. Let's do it that way. So you have to smirk like this. And I have to smirk like this because whether he notices it, maybe that you've withdrawn the change, that you write differently, or the question of whether you want to withdraw and don't know, should I not, right? Or that you're also thinking, if I write to him, maybe react a little differently, change something here. Let me tell you, there's so much uncertainty which is already being shown here and which it then triggers in him. And let me also tell you, the thoughts keep spinning around nonstop. I can tell you that with absolute certainty, but he won't let anything show, right? Because I see him more, more in the observer's perspective. So as I said, whether you've withdrawn or you want to withdraw or make a change. So changing something here, as I said, whether it's withdrawing, writing differently, arguing differently, something like that, or maybe not responding to him or her as much anymore, some kind of change, a change in the area where you used to do things differently, right? You were always there. I mean, you were always there. You gave everything. You were understanding. You always put yourself and your own wishes and needs aside because you always had this understanding, right? You were also sometimes pushed aside and ignored. He basically always took the lead. I have Chimor Chercher. Let me put it bluntly. He decided when, he decided where, and for how long, right? He was the one in charge. And even when you wrote to him, sometimes he might have replied right away. But it could also be, or what I see here more often, that he took his time to respond, hours, days, weeks, maybe even months, because I always see this kind of delay here, right? So, and then when you change, when you do something different, I'll tell you in a moment, what kind of change is being shown, Herod has a huge impact on him. Because I also see this sudden awakening, realization that something just doesn't fit anymore. Something isn't right. So he notices it, whether you're writing or you've written differently, So I don't want to keep repeating myself with either you've done it or you're planning to do it. You, please, you need to adapt it for yourselves because otherwise it just takes too long. I just wanted to say that again. So the point here is you're writing differently. Maybe you're not writing at all anymore, right? He's used to you writing, He, as I said, has taken control himself and says, okay, I don't feel like responding, or yeah, I'll just write yes, or I'll get back to you later. And then nothing else comes. And here's how it is. If you stop writing, or if you now leave several days or hours of distance in between, if I create that distance, then maybe I'm not immediately on his mind, not on the very first day, not in the very first second, right? Because he's not exactly a quick thinker here who picks up on it right away, since I don't necessarily have someone here who's good at multitasking, And the thing is, he will notice it. He'll notice it quickly. We're talking about a matter of days here, right? He senses it inside himself. He notices it. And the reason he might not react immediately, I also see here, is because he's really in total chaos. Because I see a complete change, a transformation in him, since a lot is being changed here. I see him completely caught up in his worries, in his sorrow. Activities, it could be a hobby, it could be work, his environment. I see all of that here. I see here one annoyance follows the next. So the problems actually go hand in hand, right? And as soon as one problem is gone, whoosh, the next one comes along. That's how I see it here, because there's just so much pressure. And if he sometimes doesn't write to you right away, I don't necessarily want to completely shield him or make excuses for him here, but the truth is he really does have quite a lot of other issues as well, things that are really weighing heavily on him, So he's really being pushed into a corner by all of this. But well, these are his issues, they're his problems. I see him here completely caught up in his fears. These could even be existential fears, because I also see signs of existential anxiety here. Then there's the matter of having made wrong decisions, bad choices, maybe financially, maybe professionally, with contracts or jobs, Has he repeatedly let himself be guided by others? Has he fallen for someone here? Has he allowed himself to be influenced? Yes. So there's really a lot going on with these issues. As I said, the change is coming from you. Now, if I look at your area here, on the heart level, by the way, you're also on the heart level for him, Because I see a lot of heart here. I see the connection with the past, in other words, with you in the past. And it's like this, it makes him thoughtful. He realizes that something isn't right anymore. One moment, maybe, as I said, not right after the first message, because he actually assumes that it's just a test from you, like a test phase, it's just a brief, I don't know, like a little flutter in your stomach or something like that, that you react this way for a moment, but then give in again, that you become insecure again, give in. And then it all starts over from the beginning. So that's totally normal, right? All right. No matter if it's a conversation where you're not as accessible anymore, or you say to him, or he says to you, exactly, you say to him, he says to you, this is about meeting up, right? And normally you were always like, yeah, sure. I mean, now it's, no, I can't, right? So that day, Wednesday might not work, Thursday, okay? Or even the time. Yeah, it could be that he reacts a bit sulky right away and says, fine, then not at all, right? At first. In the first moment, I get that brief reaction from him or her, but the stubborn mule, he'll become totally tame, and he'll actually start following you around. Even if you write differently now, maybe before you wrote practically half a novel, right? And explain yourself. I always see you in this area, in this explanation, where you kept giving statements like, I couldn't because, right? I have various problems here, different issues. I couldn't, right? And then, I'm sorry, things like that. But now that doesn't happen anymore. You've cut that out. You don't say it anymore. You don't explain yourself anymore. At first, he doesn't get it right away, like I said, but he notices that something is different. If you consistently stick with it, remove yourself from his energy. His space, your space, very important. Let him stay in his own energy so that you step out of this energy field of being active. Wonderful. Because then he starts to move, because he notices that something isn't right anymore. Because it's like this. He gets curious. Interesting. You make yourself completely interesting again, because I see that his curiosity is very strong here. As I said, in the beginning, some people don't get it right away because of all their issues and problems, or they think, okay, you'll give in again anyway, so now I'll just wait and see, right? If you don't give in even when you're in that place of, oh God, should I maybe after all? No, right? You stay true to yourself and stick to your line, because now you're taking the lead. For me, it's like a game between clutch and gas, So not light bomb, total coldness and rejection. As I said, you should always decide freely for yourself. We're talking purely collectively here. No matter what form of life, whether personal, private, or now in the collective, right? You always make your own decisions freely. And then you say, okay, not quite like that. Let's try to convey that as well. You remain authentic and loving, but with a certain boundary. Absolutely great. Because I have him here. His thoughts, whoa. It's like he's a different person, because that's when he really starts to reflect. He starts thinking, and I find that absolutely fantastic. So as I said, change. Whether it's that you don't write to him at all anymore, or just this delay, simply that you have a delay sometimes. Just toss the ball back to him again and again, right? This. He doesn't write to you. You hold up a mirror to him. Okay, then I won't write to him either. There you go. That's actually you, right? He won't really get it, right? I can tell you that very clearly. He won't perceive it like, oh, I did that too. No, I don't have it like that here, right? But honestly, that's not really important, I'd say, because the most important thing is that he notices something's not right anymore, because that will make him curious. He notices the change, and above all, he also notices that you're no longer within his reach. You're out of his energy. The longer you stay in his energy with thoughts like, should I text him? Should I call them? Should I do this for him? Oh God, how could I help him? For example, in situations like that, he doesn't make a move. Honestly, when it comes to energy, he's really just a lazy bones. He's comfortable. He basically has everything he needs. You're giving him your energy. And for him, it's like a land of milk and honey. He doesn't have to do anything at all. But now you're taking the lead by pulling yourself out of that energy. Absolutely perfect. So above all, it's also the case that on a heart level, he reconnects and thinks, hey, wait a minute, I do love this woman. I miss this woman or this man. Because that's when the real deep feelings come up, not just a little flutter like a single butterfly flying by, but an entire butterfly farm forming inside, coming alive again. And that's exactly what I didn't want to see all this time, right? I feel it even more intensely then. I have that connection, that stability when you pull back. But as I said, I don't see you going after this now saying, okay, wow, a complete cut, and now I'll deliberately make him jealous. If you do it deliberately, if you provoke it like wham, right? So I'll show you that now. That's when he shuts down, But But if you react just a little differently so that it's noticeable but not too much, then he starts to take action. That's when he begins to write to you about himself. And then he'll also start to ask again, how are you? How was your day? Things like that. I've noticed it. He'll approach you cautiously because, as I said, he's not getting any information from you anymore. For example, if you were someone who used to post a lot on social media, or if you were at some cafe or anywhere else, right? Then it means that you just go to a different cafe for a change, or you stop posting altogether. Stop showing anything about yourself. Just change something there. So a behavioral pattern that you used to have, you change it a little bit. Not completely, but just a bit, because that's when his curiosity really gets piqued. Something doesn't add up. But here it's really, really important. And I want to emphasize this again. Not every man or woman is the same. That's very important. That means just because you react this way, it doesn't mean that every man will respond the same and say, hey now, you know? So I really, really want to stress that, because there are also many men, and women too, right? So it's yeah, men and women, it's all included. And sometimes some people react this way when there's no contact at all, that they don't dare to reach out anymore, you know? So I want to emphasize that again. That's why please look at your own situation. Does it fit? Would you, or does this reading fit for the collective? I also see the person you care about as being insecure and restless, you know? That's why I say this not really sure applies to what he's actually doing as well. That's why I say if you just go all in here, you know, really go for it and make a hard cut just to make something happen because you want him to reach out again, for him to become active again. Because I also see here that he might not actually do it, you know, because here I see more of a cut, a withdrawal, meaning he really doesn't want to at all. So it's important. Not every man is the same, and not everyone will react this way. I can only tell you this, based on this collective reading. As I said, there are also men who, if you withdraw, if you stop responding completely, or for example say, no, I don't want to meet up with you, or not now, maybe a week later or something, some of them can react offended and then say, okay, then let's make a complete cut, you know. That's very important. I always have to mention that, you know. But here, as I said, after this reading, please take from it what resonates with you, adapt it for yourself, and put together your own puzzle, your own concept, okay? So what else do we have? So we have coins again, and we have wands again. So great. We have wands. We have the Knight of Wands. That's what we have. He is getting impatient. So it's really like this. When you experience this change, this, as I said, you no longer explain yourself how and what you can do that in between, you know. If he does bring something up, like he says, look, today I did this and so on, or if he asks you something, then you respond yes, but not in a way that you give him everything anymore, you know. Always just a little bit, like sometimes yes, sometimes no, always just giving him a little bit as well when he comes to you. Then you can meet him halfway a bit. It's like yes, in terms of energy, if he gives you a little something, you give a little something back, you know. If nothing comes from him, then nothing comes from you either. But even if something does come from him, you also don't give anything at first, but still in a loving way, you know, gently, softly. Yes, because he will actually get impatient. And it's like, then that's when this impatience comes in. This, yes, he really starts to get fidgety because something just doesn't quite fit for you anymore. And now it's getting really exciting. And then it can also happen that he really comes at you quite intensely, sending you lots of messages where you might say, wow, I'm totally being flooded with all these messages. What am I supposed to do with all this? So it's like, boom, you know, wow. And we have another yes. So we really have so many yeses. Now he notices it, he senses the change, and he will start approaching you more again. He will notice it, or he has already noticed it. And that's when he becomes active again. As I said, there are still a few things he needs to sort out for himself, but he will become more active again. And as I said, to answer the question, if you do it, if you pull back, if you react differently, like I mentioned, you know, I can definitely say he will notice it. I've already told you earlier what his reaction might be. At first, he might be a little, just a little bit offended. But you don't give in, right? Or he might think, well, maybe she's just testing me or something like that. He'll expect you to give in again, but you don't, you really don't. And then something's not right here. What's going on here? What's different here? Because now he's getting insecure because he doesn't even know if you still want him at all. And that's the crucial point. He had been pretty sure of himself, you know. So from that perspective, I think what we have here is absolutely fantastic. Now we have coins again, 3 of coins, okay? So he will definitely overcome his old patterns of behavior. He will leave behind that old level he's been stuck in all this time. So he'll meet you again on a more mature, better level. With teamwork, So he's really coming, he will definitely pass this test and will truly have a plan for how to approach you properly again. He will embrace change. We have another yes. So as many yeses as we have here right now, I mean, wow, okay? So it's really absolutely top notch. And now from the bottom of my heart, I wish you a wonderful rest of the day and thank you for watching. Goodbye, my dears. Ciao.